My name is Cameron Bailey. I am the co-head of TIFF and the artistic director here for the festival. I want to thank you all for coming to this film. You have excellent taste. I know that already since you're here. To begin, we'd like to acknowledge where we are. This is the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat First Nations. These nations have been on this land for thousands of years, and we are grateful to be a part of this community and to be sharing this land. A reminder, we have an award here. It's called the Grolsch People's Choice Award, and we can't do it without your help. It's voted on by you, so we would invite you to vote for the films of your choice. You go online to tiff.net/vote, and you can do that on your phone if you like, after the film, not during, of course. No matter how much you're loving it, just wait until after and don't disturb people with your phones. Big thanks to Netflix, Inc. for providing us with this film. They've been great partners of ours, and we're very glad to have this new film by Noah Baumbach. Noah was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and he has had many films that have played at our festival and at festivals around the world. His films include Mr. Jealousy, The Squid and the Whale, Margot at the Wedding, Frances Ha, and most recently here, While We're Young. And this is a film that is powerfully emotional. I think many people will find it really hits home for them. In fact, let me ask, who here shares a bed with someone? I mean regularly, the same person. All right, so hands, yes? Okay, excellent, good. 2 hands up over there. I don't know what the 2 means, actually. If you cohabit, if you're in a long-term relationship of any kind, I think you will find deep resonance in this film. I certainly did. I appreciated the insight that Noah Baumbach brought to relationships of all sorts at their beginning and especially at their end, the courage that he brought to it. There's great humor in the film, depth, of course, but I think especially real heart. I think this is a film that's made from the heart, and I'm so glad you're going to be the first audience in Canada to see the film. Noah's come to introduce it to you this evening, so please join me in welcoming the director of Marriage Story, Noah Baumbach.
Thank you, Cameron. Thanks, Cameron, for that introduction. Very nice, and it's great to be back here. I want to thank Netflix, also, you mentioned, for being such great partners and friends on our movie. And as you mentioned, I've been to Toronto many times, and I just find the audiences so wonderful and warm and great. And I was here actually in 1997 with my second movie, Mr. Jealousy, and for reasons, it got a very nice reception, and then for reasons I can't quite remember, or I'd rather not tell anybody, I was carrying the film canisters back with me on the plane, which, for those of you who don't know, film used to be projected, actually projected on film. It would go through the projector. So you actually had to do something with the, now I could put it in my pocket or put it in my eye or take it back that way. So it was heavy, is the point of my story. I have some of my collaborators here who I want to introduce you to, and we're going to come back afterward for Q&A. Really pleased to introduce them to you. The first is my producing partner on the movie, along with David Heyman, Craig Shilowich. This person, I think I spend more time with in my life than anybody else in my life, including all my closest family members, which is either a beautiful thing or we have to change something. She's just the best collaborator you could hope for on a movie, and I really won't make a movie without her. My editor, Jennifer Lame. They're also married, which makes it even more complicated. What's really kind of a pleasure, one of the many pleasures of doing the job that I do is getting to work with people who you've admired from very early times in your life, going to the movies, and then being able to reach out with them. I mean, there's people who are not with us today, but like Randy Newman, who did the score of this movie. I mean, what a great thing to be able to then work with him. This is another one of those people who has scared me in movies and delighted me in movies, and is one of the greatest actors we have. And pleasure to introduce Ray Liotta. And I'm going to bring these two people out together. I wasn't going to make this movie if I couldn't have these two people play Charlie and Nicole in the you will see. And I went to both of them before I started writing, and I just had a few ideas, and I said, this is kind of terrain I'm thinking about. I hope you'll be interested. And having their commitment and their involvement at such an early stage, it gave me the confidence and the inspiration to really push myself and write the movie I did. And then to work with these two actors was in a way, what they do in the movie is so personal, and what they reveal is so human and so them, even though it's my words, that when I look at the movie, I actually feel in many ways like I'm watching their movie. There's really no better actors to have than Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. We do love Scarlett. We do love Adam. And we love Craig. Thank you all for coming. This movie means a lot to us, and it's a real pleasure to show it to you tonight. And we'll be back for question and answer. Thanks.
I wanted to start by asking, I was thinking, we were talking a little bit about how the movie asks a lot of emotional energy of you as a viewer, but it also gives you as much emotional energy, both in comedy, in feeling, in the details. And I was curious kind of what the process was like, what you did to keep the energy up through the entire process with such heavy material, through the writing, through working with the actors, et cetera.
Well, the movie provided, the material in a way provided a lot of opportunity for me to, in some ways, explore many genres. I could tell, essentially I think it's a love story, but there were also aspects of it that seem absurd, like a comedy, a screwball comedy, or things that are scary, like a thriller, that's the legal system's involved, so it's kind of a procedural in that way, and also because I wanted it to be, and I felt that they needed it, I wanted it to also be a musical. And so, in a way, it was really just being inside the material, bringing the actors in, my collaborators in early, so that we were all kind of in the headspace of it. We all could kind of be in there together. And, that I think then you trust the other stuff's gonna happen.
And kind of on that note, I'm curious, the process, there's bringing them in early to the thought process, but there's also how much rehearsal did you do? What were some things both of you learned in the rehearsal process about the characters that you felt like you brought to the screen?
Well, we rehearsed, I think, 2 weeks before we started shooting, and kind of, Noah, the way he works is almost very theatrical. I mean, obviously there's a theme of theater that runs throughout the movie. It begins with a performance. He's a theater director. She's an actor. There is kind of like this ritual and performance of getting divorced. You're performing for a judge. You're somehow, human moments are documented and then read back to you, in this kind of clinical performance. And that's it, the way Noah writes is also, we don't change the dialogue, nor do you want to, which doesn't mean it's not restrictive at all. It's just those are the boundaries, but the intent is, you can change. The content is where your improv is. So everything is blocked out, even the long fight scene, the serving scene, everything's blocked out very much like a play. So then we kind of forget about that, and with good writing, it kind of, there's endless questions that you can ask yourself in playing the scenes. If it's kind of not well written, there's only one way of kind of doing it. But I think we're fortunate that, a long run of a play, you do 8 shows a week for 5 months, and you only at the end, I feel like, do I have an understanding of it. But with Noah's, the way he works, he truncates that to, the day you're shooting it, and he's manufactured the schedule so you have, the luxury of a lot of takes and a lot of times to explore different meaning of intent with the lines. So this is a long way of saying it's a combination of things. We rehearsed it a lot, but also you're, working with great actors, have a lot of time and have a lot of options, and a great script and a great director. So
Yeah, I mean, Adam's still calling me about 2 movies ago, saying he has new ideas for Francis Ha, he doesn't stop thinking about it.
That's how you know it's lived in.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Ray, you mentioned the screwball comedy part of it, and your character is a little bit heightened from some of the other pieces, but how do you find kind of that line in the performance to make it fit in there with the heightened piece, but also, have it grounded in reality in those scenes?
The only thing reading it that I thought was funny is when I tell him about strapping the baby seat in. And that to me was funny, but everything else was every word you're saying. Again, it's the writing, and if you just commit to it, people have been saying they laugh, and I got to see it with an audience because it's great that they are, but again, it's all the writing.
I'm going to open it up to the audience, but I have to ask you about the role of company in the film. There's 2 numbers by Company from the musical. Company was widely regarded as one of the first plays that came with adult themes and that talked about things like divorce. And I was wondering, once you decided on theater as one of the elements, was it important to you to have that kind of Sondheim DNA in the film in that way? What was the impetus behind the choice?
Well, in a way, I think I even had the idea that Adam would sing Being Alive from Company before I even knew what their profession was going to be. Adam and I have talked about that musical a lot, and specifically that song is something that we both loved and something that he would like to sing. So in a way, I reverse engineered this entire divorce picture
Around Company.
to somehow arrive at a way for Adam to sing that song and for it to feel the way it feels, emotional and cathartic, and be story, and I say that half jokingly, but I really did. I was like, I hope I can write a movie good enough that this song, that Adam singing this song could find a place in it. And so, that was at the bottom of my notes, and I wrote the script so I could get to that.
And then you added the other song along the way?
And then as I was going, and then of course we came up with them being in theater, and it was actually Adam's idea that he be a theater director, and then I thought, well, she should have something too, and her song should be a different story for her at that point. And that's also, I loved that song from Company, and it was also a thing for her to do with her mother and her sister, and they're having a kind of reunion of sorts, and she's kind of in a moment of kind of release in a different way than he is. We always talked about the story being, in some ways, her story of gaining momentum and gaining a voice, because she's kind of there from the beginning. She's already on her way out. And so she's kind of building herself up, and his story is one of breaking himself down in a way, unconsciously. And so both those songs, in a way, kind of, I guess in a way, it sort of arrives at those songs for both of them narratively.
And also, its intent is also, they met, what she says in the earlier scene, they met in performance. So they have that in common. And it was also where it came in the script, where Noah wrote it, was, I thought, beautiful. And he hasn't really had time to catch up and mourn anything. And so it seemed to be the first time that he could actually begin to mourn the loss of this love that used to be very, very familiar to him, and to not have it be, literal, but an abstract way of expressing it was also a great thing about in the script.
I'm going to open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions? It's very stunned out here. So the question was for Noah, why do you like dysfunctional families so much across all of your movies?
Is there another kind of family?
Here? So the question was how you approach performing being alive, and if you did it, if you pre-recorded it and then mimed it to the camera, whether it was all live on set, et cetera.
We recorded it before as a safety, but with always the intent that we would record it live. But you kind of, which I think we.
Well, we recorded
did.
it so that the piano player would have it, so he would know the rhythm of it, but it was always recorded live.
But as far as performing it, it was kind of what I was saying. As far, he doesn't know he's gonna kind of be teleported by the song. I think he's not really taking it seriously until he starts taking it in. And then I think it does kind of operate as the first time where he abstractly starts to mourn the loss of this thing. So I think that's what we were, even just the dialogue that he almost says jokingly, which is in Company of, say something, and then all the lyrics are about all these things that are actually terrible about love, someone to do all of these things to me, but yet that's the only thing that keeps me alive, and now that's gone, and that was even just saying the lyrics was, I don't think it really hits him until he is saying it out loud, in performance, what he's missed or what he will be missing. So I think that was part of it.
I'll say it's a funny thing about screenplays too, because there's obviously a lot of dialogue in this screenplay, and there's some long monologues and there are long scenes and things, but then you get to a point and you type Charlie sings being alive. Maybe there's one other sentence after that. And, you can't get it in the reading clearly what you get when you see the movie.
We have time for a couple more. I'll do this one. Yeah. Yep.
So my question is for both the editor and the director. I was just wondering, in order to prevent the audience from choosing sides, how do you balance their screen time and their dialogue?
So the question was, in order to prevent the audience from choosing sides, how do you balance their screen time and their dialogue?
Well, do you want to answer, Jen, or no?
I watched the movie, so I'm a bit of a wreck right now.
Well, it was in the script. You know, we shot the script, we edited the script. And it was always important to me that that the movie be even-handed. I wasn't interested in a movie that wasn't even-handed. I didn't want to I wouldn't even think of something else. So, you know, it really was, in editorial, it really was the balance of what was already there. But, you know, you have these two actors, you know, and they're just so, you know, I have to say, I mean, I think Jen and I both found this watching it, even though we're watching it over and over, and we're watching every take, and we're going, you know, and I was, you know, there, and she was there even for some of the shoot. You know, what they did is so revealing and personal, even though that's my dialogue. I find like I'm watching their movie a lot of the time, and I think that helped us even in cutting it, because it was some way, really, it was all about kind of honoring what they had done, you know, and it was just so honest, and you know, I felt that way shooting the movie, I felt that way cutting the movie, I felt that way mixing the movie. It was of all the movies I've made, I feel like I'm able to watch aspects of this movie that I normally can't watch in my own movies, because I feel like I'm watching their movie.
I can take one more. I'm going to go to the front of the balcony here.
Scarlett's, sorry, I would say apologize on Scarlett's behalf. She had to introduce Jojo Rabbit, and we had an idea that maybe we'd all get up and you'd follow us over there, and it would be it was just hilarious. But given the traffic from the hotel to here, I think we'd never make it in time anyway. So anyway, it was probably a bad idea, logistically impossible. Anyway, sorry, ask your question.
Thank
I'm just curious, Noah, seeing you both answer this as well, but what was it that drew both of you to the role?
Say that again, that last one.
What was you that drew you to choose Adam for the role? Because I'm not a filmmaker, but I can see it's perfect fit. I'd like to know which role of Adam's.
Well, I didn't make the movies you reference, but I did make 3 other movies with Adam. So we've had a long relationship at this point, and Adam, I think, referred to it as a kind of ongoing conversation in some interview we were doing together, which I thought was a really nice way of saying it. And I think we do, I mean, I say the thing that Adam's still calling me about things in Francis Ha he'd like to do different. It's true. We are kind of always working on something, even when we're not working on something. We've become very close and as friends, but so I brought him this, and Scarlett too, actually, who I'd not worked with, but I brought them both the script when I was still even just thinking about, I just had general ideas, notes, things, and I just said, this is stuff I'm thinking about, would you be interested? Because I really, having them in my head, you know, and later Ray and Laura and Alan, you know, I mean, having these actors, it just helps you be better, you know. You think like, well, I can write this scene. Thinking of this actor doing this scene, I can do this. I can write this. I could. It's inspiring, and I kind of discovered it in a way that I needed them. I think this was, you know, having, like I said before, having all of them sort of inside the material, so that when we started shooting, they were all kind of there already. It was invaluable.
Well, I think we have to hand over the theater, but I want to thank you all so much for coming and for
Thank
sharing
you.
this with me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.